I'm Oluwaseyi Oyesainu, currently the head of people and performance for Farmforte Agro-Allied Company. I lecture part-time and also with the Ibadan School of Business. I love speed and I think I'm an exciting person. Welcome to my HR Chronicles. So, in retrospect, I'll say it was both ways. But initially, I started my career in sales. I never thought about human resources. I remember one time I had an encounter while I was in OAU in one of the business seminars I attended. And I learned then that to be a successful entrepreneur, you have to know how to sell and also know how to manage people. So I started my career first in sales. And after I'd mastered sales, or I thought I'd mastered sales, I went for my master's in human resources. And of course, here I'm building a career in HR. It was a bittersweet story. So having come into HR consulting, also as a salesperson, I was hoping and praying I'll go into core HR, and then the opportunity came. I sold a training to First Bank, and my facilitator was running late, so I stepped in and took the introduction. By the time he came in, he just beckoned on me to go ahead with the training, and before I knew it, they called me into the office. I did a dry run in the office, and that began my early career in HR. From afar, you think building content is quite easy. I remember my first training I had to build the content on. It took me about a week or more to build the content because you needed to research. And one of the tough things in HR is that there's no one size fits all in terms of definition. So you need to research a lot and bring out content that would, wow your audience and also help them to learn. One other thing that was also challenging was the human resource information systems, which we call HRIS. Then when I kicked off my career, it was the in thing. So I needed to go learn HRIS from the back. And in fact, I went to a software development company, AllySoft, to learn HRIS. It was also tough learning that, and also managing people. And also finally, like I say, deploy HR solutions as a consultant in companies is also difficult because the people are, they have an idea of what they want. You are trying to tell them to change. That's also difficult. Then coming into HR practice, one of the things that have been difficult is actually getting the real people, the real humans to change and align to the growth prospect of the company. So it's been both ways, sweet and then bitter. People look at us from afar and think people who work in human resources don't do work. One of my experiences in the bank, I worked in the bank as head of talent. One of the experiences I had was working with the IT department and letting them understand what we do as HR. As HR, we plan the strategic workforce for the organization. As HR, we interpret the people side of the strategy to people. Those are difficult things. It's very difficult to manage people. It's difficult to get people to follow you, let alone work with you when things are difficult in terms of resources or change. However, if this is a calling to you, if HR is something you're passionate about, you push through the tough times. So I would say it's both ways. That sometimes it comes very easy to me. Like if I'm doing anything on learning or psychometric, I love those part of the psychology area and human resources. So those are easy. But we talk about change management. Those are tough times for us in human resources. So it comes this way. I would say HR is tough. Recruiting is also challenging. Having to go through a lot of thousands of CVs to scrub them, getting the right candidate to be sure that you don't hire the wrong person, because people can talk you into hiring them during the interview. So you're looking at the time to hire, time to deliver. So I think you're looking at creating a talent-dense organization is also something difficult. So I'll say it's a two-sided of the coin. So it's easy, and then of course also tough. Yes, I will tell you where I currently work. It's a scale-up organization, and we're building structure. And you think that employees would embrace this change because you've told them the story. Do you understand? So you've made expectations clear, and then you still find resistance to this change. People want to continue doing the things they do the old ways. So that's a bit challenging. I love to work in unstructured organization because I see that it's a challenge for me to make an organization structure from the people side. So that's one challenge I'm currently facing, having to work long hours to ensure that, people understand what we need to do. Also running the business from the people side and ensuring that, right policies are put in place, managing the current situation we have in terms of COVID-19, and then getting people to still work in the office and give us the same result while they work from home. That's been challenging. Finally, getting management approval also. Like we said, HR sits on the board, and then people think HR is a cost center. You have to portray your strategies and your actions so that management can give you the money you need to execute what to do. Those are also challenging times in HR. Yeah, so there's something I said when I was in Chetsi in the Samsung Leadership Academy. By the way, I worked at Samsung. One of the things I said there is, I said, we don't have to be friends to work in a team, but we work better if we're friends. So there is a thin line between loving people when you work as human resources and dealing with people as strictly employers. In fact, sometimes as HR practitioners, we don't even know where to draw the line. We're involved in employee welfare. We want to know how people fare at home, because we believe that if we are well engaged in our employees' lives, by the way, we call it work-life balance, right? Work-life integration. So we feel like if we are involved in their life, we can help and improve performance. However, there's a thin line. So I would say you need to love people to work in HR. You need to. However, you're not creating happiness, you're not providing, you're not guaranteeing happiness. But love is something that you do when you take care of people. HR cares about people, right? So if we care about people, then why don't we love them? I think it equals to love. I'm not talking about loving as a boyfriend relationship or eros kind of love, but this is a love that stems from ensuring that your people have what they need to do, what they need to do, and you provide them the enabling environment, you check up on them, and then you care about them. Why do we provide health care? I know, yes. Why do we have next of kin information? Why do we send greetings on birthdays to HR? Why do we go further to buy them cakes? Why do we ensure they dress properly to come to the office? I don't think you can separate love from that. However, you need to love HR to be successful as HR practitioner. That's one thing I'll say. And I know people will come for me, but I'm good to say that. HR equals love. So when talking about organizational behavior, right? Companies, organizations don't behave. People behave. So people influences systems, practices, framework, mention anything you want to. So the fact that you have people in an organization, then you have HR. You may not have a role or a nomenclature called HR. In fact, the executive practice HR. Line managers practice HR. By the way, who owns the employees? They are owned by their line managers, by the way. HR managers are facilitators, right? So therefore, every company needs human resources, whether you have them as a department, whether you have them as a practice, whether you outsource them, or whether you have them in-house. Maybe I should take you through my career journey. So I've worked in HR consulting. I've worked in software development. Yes. I've worked in banking sector. I've worked in technology. I'm now in agro fintech. So this helps me speak well on this topic. And by the way, I've also transitioned into project management as HR, and that's what I call project HR management. I'm Lean Six Sigma certified. So that takes me to process enhancement. While I went to Allysoft to work as to learn HRIS at the back end, one of the things I did was I became a project manager. And I also deliver an executive HR software from the back end. So I transitioned into IT. I wrote SQL, I wrote queries. Of course, programming, of course, And I remember just last week I was interviewing a software engineer, a lead software engineer for my company, and I was asking about stacks, about sprints, about critical path, and the gentleman asked me if I was an IT person. I said, as HR, you become everything. If I need to interview for a combustion engine, role, I need to become that role. So I've transitioned without transitioning, but actually for me in my career, I've actually transitioned. Like I said earlier, I've moved to project management. I moved to when I worked at a bank, I was going into digital banking a bit. I did a certification in credit, though it was in-house, so I can understand the banking sector. Because the best HR business partners know the businesses that they support. So I think maybe I should have come into practice earlier, but I don't regret it. What I did was I went from consulting to practice, went back to consulting, then came back to practice. So coming back to practice, I see that there's a lot of, expansion you need to do with people who sit in practice. As consulting, you're built as a generalist. So you build muscle. First of all, you start as a specialist, and then you pick different sections where you specialize, and then you become a generalist. So coming to practice, I see that you can support a lot of young HR practitioners who kick off their career in practice. You can help them, and that's what I do. So I would say if I had a choice, I probably would have come into practice earlier. But I think I didn't lose anything by going back into consult and then coming back to HR. However, if there's one thing I also would say I would have done, I probably would have done my PhD earlier. I mean, I haven't started, but learning what I know now, I like to be a performance enhancement consultant. Everything has to do with performance enhancement, and then studying is very important in practicing human resources. When you go deep down into psychology, I'm certified as a predictive index analyst, and of course I can predict human behavior to high probability. But I think going down into that area is something that if I would go back, I would have done earlier. The first thing is I don't think you can come to HR without knowing maths. That's the first thing, because that's the concept I get out there that, I didn't do well in arithmetic, so I like to come into human resources. In human resources, analysis is very important. You have to draw inferences for what you know, and now data rules the world. There are opportunities for you to learn different models to design your analysis. If you're looking at SWP, which is strategic workforce planning, data is very important. In recruitment, time to hire, if you do your data properly, it can also help you. In talent management, data is important. So the young people coming behind build knowledge in data analysis. Doesn't necessarily mean calculus. It just means the ability to reason and understand how numbers work to interpret people's behavior. It's very good, and also it helps you in when you sit on the board. Also, one thing I should also say is that be open-minded, be creative. Human resources is business, because people make businesses successful. So you must know business. You must have business acumen. And of course, please also get certified to, embody what you know. I mean, I tell people knowledge is transcendent. You have to keep learning, and things are changing in this VUCA world that we find ourselves. So be open to learn. I'll make a joke before I end this question. This says scientists make better HR people. Why? It's because they have analysis background and process. So when they come into HR, they're able to use data to explain a few things that typical HR people want to run away from. So that's my advice for you. Know data analysis and interpretation. All right, so they say YOLO, right? You only live once. I say YOLO, you only die once. So if you're coming to this career, this HR field, come with an open mind. Express yourself, be innovative, wear your shield of creativity. Once again, my name is Oluwaseyi Oyesainu. This is my HR Chronicles. Thank you.